Calling me the man who cried I am, and that will be my eternal flame. Calling me poetry, for nobody knows my name.
I am the middle passage and after. You are me, and I am you. We wear the masks of America, something old, something new. For I am poetry.
I am the living experience. I am the lifelong proof. Calling me the poetry of nothing but the truth.
Hi, I'm Danny Queen, and welcome to another edition of Color Me Poetry. Danny Queen, and welcome to another edition of Color Me Poetry. Hi, I'm Danny Queen, and welcome to another exciting edition of Color Me Poetry. Hi, I'm Danny Queen, and welcome to another exciting edition of Color Me Poetry. Hi, I'm Danny Queen, and welcome to another exciting edition of Color Me Poetry. Hi, I'm Danny Queen, and welcome to another exciting edition of Color Me Poetry.
The year was 1990 when you, Danny Queen, taped the very first Color Me Poetry. You read from your first book, Wings of the Whirlwind, and boy, were you nervous.
Color Me Poetry is a poem that I had written when I was here at Bowie. I am a student of Bowie. And I wanted to pay tribute to black literary artists, people such as the Langston Hughes, the Richard Wright, and all black literary artists. So what I did was I wrote a long poem called Color Me Poetry as a tribute to those artists and their contribution to not only black literature, but to world literature. And the poem is simply entitled, Color Me Poetry. Color me the man that quite I am, and that would be my eternal flame. Color me poetry, for nobody knows my name. I am the living experience, I am the lifelong proof. Color me the poetry of nothing but the truth. I am not to be sold nor bought, so color me a scholar in the school of thought, for I am poetry.
Your deep love for poetry and the arts have made Color Me Poetry home for many local artists and a stepping stone for others. In the course of taping over 300 shows, you have introduced us to many new poets.
Which one would you choose, my lady?
Authors
If there was no day or night,
and talented local artists,
which would you prefer?
as well as introducing us to established writers you already knew.
Too much
Brother Omar, to Color Me Poetry. Brother, you got your new book we were talking about earlier, Do Right Man, is doing very well. Also, your big book, Fly Girl, has done very well. She's the author of two wonderful books, Laughing in the Dark and Moments of Grace. And it is my honor and pleasure to present to you Miss Patrice Gaines. Welcome, Patrice.
It was all I could do tonight.
Thank you for coming and sharing with us here. We've known each other for years.
That's right.
I used to get on your nerves.
You've opened our eyes to many worthwhile causes, discussed sensitive issues, and helped raise our consciousness. At the same time, your own talent began to shine. Like the true entrepreneur that you are, you self-published your second book, Wake Up Call, and brought it to the people. As the author of over 200 poems, you have turned into a marketing genius, distributing your work to major bookstores and selling your poetry one piece at a time. On a desk, on a wall, at the beauty shop in the mall, there's another Danny Queen masterpiece for all to read and enjoy. Poems such as Color Me Poetry, Stop Lying, Pay Me My Money, all in the Kool-Aid, You Are What You Think, Without Woman, God is Good, Where There's a Will, and Dear Lord. These poems inspire, comfort, enlighten, and amuse us just when we need it most. And if that wasn't enough, You have now realized yet another dream with the completion of your first CD, appropriately titled Color Me Poetry, Soundtrack to a Dream. Now the year is 2000. It's been 10 fun years. And Danny Queen, you are still a phenomenal man, full of energy and driven by your passion for poetry. Today, we pay tribute to you.
Too much love. Never in this world will there be too much love. There's never too much love. Too much love. Never in this world will there be too much love.
There stands hope. There stands hope through the windows of my mind. Upon the highways of life, I've been lost and found, and even turned around, trying to track a lost dream down. Without a dream in my heart, life makes me feel so out of place, when all the things I've hoped for passes before my face. But through the windows of my mind, all in the darkness that I find, there stands hope. There stands hope through the windows of my mind. This is Danny Queen, and welcome back to Color Me Poetry. We're here with the Honorable Miss J. California Cooper, and we're just talking about writing. We're just having a good time. We were talking about, you know, how you have to be true to the art form, and you really do. I mean, you can't fake it. If you fake it, people are going to know.
That's right.
You know, so I think you really do have to put yourself into it, and you have to celebrate life. I find that in your writing that you celebrate life, and I get that through what you say, through your characters. And I think that you personally celebrate life in that way.
Well, I do. I'm very appreciative of the things that are here for me. As I said, I believe in God. And I am totally fascinated, intrigued, knocked out by all the things on earth that He made. I regret what man is doing to
Simple
this
things.
fantastic earth. But the beauty, you know, just getting up in the morning and going outside and feeling fresh air. And it's supposed to be fresh, and looking at a sky and watching a sunrise or a sunset and watching a cloud go. Listen, getting it ready to rain when you see these big, fat, black clouds come over your little area, and they sit there and you know they're about to do something, and that lightning and the wind, you know, I cried once by a glacier, this wind up there in Alaska, whipping around, and you just the marvel, the strength, the beauty of this fantastic place I live in. And the only thing, regretfully, that messes it up sometime are people. Now, there are some very nice people that I'm glad are in the world, and I'm glad about environmentalists, and I help when I can, and I'm glad about people who fight for others and love others. I just wish there were more of them.
Yeah, it's too small a number.
But the fact a dog suffering hurts me, a cat, anybody alone, and they say aloneness is one of the greatest problems in the world today. Lonely, lonely. And there's so many men and women, they're both lonely, and they don't know how to find each other and tell the truth. Everybody wants to say, oh, I'm doing all right. And I have, who are you? Not what are you, what do you have? And like I tell some customers, everybody's looking for Mr. Right and Miss Right.
Yeah.
If they came along, would they pick you? You know, who are you?
I'm glad you said that, because everybody's looking for Miss Right and all, Mr. Right. And I hear people often say, well, I'm looking for a good friend. But I said, well, maybe you ought to be a friend first.
Yeah.
You know, and they come with a long list of things. Well, you got to do this, this, and this. And then you ask them, well, now wait a minute, are you this, this, and this? Well, not exactly. But why would you want somebody else to live up to those standards?
But then we go back to what you said about my book, The Stories That End Happily. They took some census or something, and they were asking people, what do you want in a mate? And I think they started out with money, good looks, nice car, you know, athletic or something. The reason they're going to get a divorce someday is those are not valuable things. Those are nice things. Money's nice to have, guys knows that. But say you didn't say kindness. You didn't say honesty. Have you ever had a liar in your life? You didn't say loyalty, someone who would stay and help you raise your children, man or woman. These are the things that make people end up happy. You know what you're doing. You know what you need. You have that, you can get some money. You buy a car. They got plastic surgery now, you can even go buy good looks, right?
That's true.
But you better get you somebody with a heart and some soul.
And some common sense.
That's right, some values.
I'm
Ooh,
very glad
child,
you
a
said
person who steals or lies make your life miserable. And you
sound
know,
like my grandmother now.
but now everyone has something wrong with them. But you can decide what you want to live with. There's the man who uses drugs. There's the man who uses alcohol. I think I'd pick the one who uses alcohol because maybe we can get in there and help him. This one may kill himself. There's the man who goes to the racetrack. There's the man who likes shoes. I think I would take the man who likes shoes because, you know, he can get enough shoes and I can... But the racetrack's going to clean me out. We're not going to have anything in the house to show for it.
Compulsive gambling.
So pick your problem if you can. The bad thing about that is that you can choose your friends, but you usually cannot choose the person you love. Your heart just says, ta-da, and you don't make that decision, but you can be careful to try not to love them too long if you know they're not good for you, because this is your life. And too many people live the life of the person they choose. You have to be careful that person has values or you'll find your life wasted.
All too often.
I don't mean to talk this much, but actually that's
Well, that's all right, because we have, you know, questions that we want to ask, but no, that's good. Of all the possible birds, why did you choose red-winged bird for the story and Some Sold the Key?
Because it was such a beautiful sounding bird. I've never seen one. But he sounded so beautiful, and it just seemed to, she was going to fly, right? So I said red-winged blackbirds because it was just the way it sounded beautiful. There was no other reason. I mean, you know, I didn't say, I'll do this because of this. It's just, it was beautiful, and I'm into beauty.
Do you find that sometimes as a writer, I know, when I think of things, it has to sound good to my ear. I call it my mind's ear, but it has to look right on paper. Also.
I don't know about the paper, but I do know, yes, my stories do come in a form, but they develop their own form. I've got stories in the shape of a Y.
You don't do it consciously.
Stories in it. I kind of know what the story looks like after I'm through writing it, but I even say it sometimes. This is a story is shaped like a Y. We're going to start here first, and we're going to end up in the middle, because you know you can talk to your readers like that if they're your close, they're friends, and I do anyway. So.
Because I notice they look different on the paper.
And sometimes when the publisher, I say, please don't change the form of this. Because sometimes they'll put a dialogue in one paragraph. Don't do that. The reason it's down like this is because I want the silence between each thing a person says. It doesn't run like this.
And that helps the flow.
Yes, and I want the story to do like I want it to do because that adds what I want to be added to the words.
Nothing makes me madder than when I go to the printer. I have a certain form for the poem that I'm doing, whether it's a card or whatever. And they change it. I'm like, no, but that's not what I want, you know?
Yeah. Listen, I have people, I think a couple of reviewers talked about my exclamation points. Too many exclamation points. What are they doing, reading the story or counting exclamation points? First place, my people don't live in periods. You cannot say, my mother died and 3 of us were out in the street, period. That's not a period, that's 3 exclamation points. That's my mother died and we're out in the street alone, right? How can you say period? Don't tell me how to write. I know what I'm talking about. I know the feeling that I have. And the feeling when you end up say, I'm broke, I'm out in the street, someone attempted to rape me, those are not periods. Those are exclamation points.
That's important also.
Yeah, because that's something in life you got to come against. And that's not a period.
And it's good to really know how to use it, the punctuation. Sometimes we don't. I know my instructors, particularly Mrs. D. Smith, the lady I told you about, wonderful lady, always told me, she said, if the poetry is strong enough, you don't need a whole lot of punctuation.
That's true,
she
too.
She said that.
That's true, too.
If you write it
words
in such a way.
are powerful. But now, I don't know how to use punctuation, but I know what I mean. Like sometimes I put 2 exclamation points, a question mark, another point, because I know this, I'm living it with this person that's living this story. And I know what that person felt like, so that's why I do what I do. But that's because these are talking stories. That's because that's how I feel. I don't do things like 1 and then 2 and the 3 because that bores me. Everything I do is, I love that rock, or I love that tree, or give me my cat. I don't.
And I feel that when I read you, too.
Yeah.
I feel that this lady's enjoying what she's doing.
Yes.
And she's feeling it, and she wants to make us feel what she feels.
I cry at the typewriter, I laugh, I do everything, because I'm not making them up. They're coming alive in my mind. I'm living with them. The blind girl, I'd get up and I think I'd be surprised if I could see. And I don't think I'd want it any other way. That's why I wear that dress when I read, because that covers me up and you don't see me and I'm not out there. These people can come back. I love them coming back. They again make me cry, whatever they do. But I'm living again.
Do you run into those people over and over again in real life?
When I'm reading, I don't know. None of these people came from life.
Okay.
All of these people just came in my imagination and started talking.
Oh, they just came up.
It come into my brain. That's why.
But they seem so real.
But they are real because I'm not writing little jive stories.
But they're like people who I've met or something, you know?
Well, if they weren't, I wouldn't be telling a good story because.
Yeah, that's true.
And again, I believe in the Bible, which means I'm talking about real life things.
Yeah, and that's the key.
Yeah.
Education. Education is the medium by which a people are prepared for the creation of their own particular civilization and the advancement and the glory of their own race. To be learned and worthwhile in all that is knowing, and not to be crammed with the philosophy of the subject of the book, or the matter, or the classroom, but to store away in one's head such facts as needed for the daily application of life. To see your enemy and to know him is a part of the complete education of man. Many a man was educated outside of the classroom. It is not something you let out, not completely take in. You are a part of it, for it is natural. It is dormant simply because you refuse to develop it. But God creates every man with it knowingly or unknowingly, to him who possesses it. That's the difference. Develop yours and you can become as great and as full of knowledge as any man without ever entering a classroom. A quote from the Honorable Marcus Garvey, 1923. Hi, I'm Danny Queen, and welcome to Color Me Poetry once again. I'd like to welcome our most illustrious guest, Miss Alice Chandler. And Miss Chandler is the proprietor of the Positive Energy newsletter and also editor-in-chief, is that right?
I'm the owner and publisher of Positive Energy newsletter, and also one of the writers occasionally for the publication.
What is positive energy?
Positive energy is that force that's within you that only lets you exude and give out those things which make other people feel good about themselves. Tells the good things about people rather than the negative things.
That's most important. I've seen positive energy around the community for years. Y'all been around for a long time? It's
been out for 10 years, and now I.O. Handy, who's the founder, has decided to have franchises across the nation. And I have the first franchise, which is the D.C. franchise, so which has just started this year. And I understand that her next franchise will probably be out of Baltimore.
What does it take to get a franchise?
Well, in our statement, we're not allowed to give out the actual information, but it does include financial, as well as I'm providing a database for her so that that she'll use for the D.C. area for advertising, and also to give information out for other seminars and PR for 2 other people who are into Afrocentric thinking and holistic thinking, because that's a large part of what positive energy is.
What is, let's talk about the holistic thinking and exactly what it means, because there are a lot of people who don't know and hear these phrases and these terms and really have no handle on the definition of it.
Okay, holistic means that whole part of yourself that includes the body, the mind, and the spirit, and you have to align them into oneness. And oftentimes we think about the health factors, including reflexology, which is one of the articles this month, meditation, and also just taking good care of the personal person. Spiritually, it doesn't really matter who the God is that you follow, as long as you understand that there is a higher being that you have to align yourself with, and then everything will flow through in a positive manner.
That's most definitely the Afrocentric way of a worldview, if I might say. And positive energy, how did Mrs. Handy come up with the title? I think it's most appropriate, positive energy, because when you look at the media, the mass media, and the type of news, corporate news, if you will, that they give us, you know, and African Americans are not always seen in a positive light. So what do you think about the title, and how'd she come up with that?
Well, I really can't answer for Io, but I can only believe that she saw so many negative things, especially out of the 70s and now the 80s and other times when now we're beginning to only hear the negative things, the violence in the national publications. And so she wanted people to see the other side, to see the community. And really it's a community-based publication, even though it is circulated throughout the city in nearby PG County and also Montgomery County, but it really gets into giving the community, the real people that we see. We often do not see all the violence, as you know, when we're in the community. We really don't see the violence. We really see the good people and some of the good things that are going on. So we want to see it in print for the people, and also to have people give us information so we can place it in print.
And I think that's very important to our community too, that we have those positive images that we don't get, that we're not going to get from corporate media. Matter of fact, you know, some of those things that I see happening on the 6 o'clock news and all that, I be in the community all the time, and I don't see all of that stuff that they, because of course they, you know, they dramatize, you know, for ratings or whatever. But I'm in the community all the time, and do work in the community, volunteer work in many different organizations in the community, and I don't see all that they talk about, that they blow out of proportions. So I think positive energy is a positive thought for the black community, and the type of material that you carry in the magazine is very positive. What else some of those type of articles that you...
Okay, I mentioned reflexology. We also have an upcoming article on reality, on using black businesses. Also, most of our advertising reflects the Afrocentric thinking. We have a number of hairstylists that are in the publication. Also, alternative schools for our young people, and things along that line. Truth, understanding truth from an Afrocentric perspective. Holistic healing from an African base. Books that are based on black thinking. All of those things are often reflected in our publication. Yeah.
So that's important.
That's the most important thing, and to understand that there is a network out there that is thinking as most of us are thinking, because we oftentimes get hung up on, as you say, the 6 o'clock news or the Washington Post and other publications that do not give the full light, and then we go away being very negative. But this one allows you to go back and see those things.
And feel good.
And feel good. And also we have a calendar there which tells you where various events that are Afrocentric and holistic in thinking will take place during the month that it is being published. And so that also helps people to keep in line with that throughout the month and to network at these particular gatherings.
You know, I have the utmost respect for Sister Io Handy, because she's a very people-oriented person.
Yes, she is.
In
yes,
the community, and has always been, ever since I've known her for at least 10 years.
Yes.
She's published my poetry in the magazine.
Yes.
And it's also an outlet for young writers also. Talk about that.
Okay, it really is. It allows people who would love to be published. Now, they would not be professional, because professional writer, as many people may not know, are those people who are paid to submit information. However, a published writer, that's the first step before you become a professional writer.
Right.
And other people would not be able to get their editorials or other writings into other mainstream publications or magazines. They could have it here. We have cartoons, we have photographs that we use. Designs, graphic designs often are found when we do the advertising. We do very artsy things with that. Poetry, which I know is your thing.
Yes.
We oftentimes have at least 2 poetry pieces in our newsletter, depending upon how long it is. Usually it's 8 pages. Sometimes we go up to 12 pages.
Well, that's very good. That's very beautiful, because, you know, a lot of times poets, short story writers don't have an outlet.
No, they don't.
Because many publications, not only the major white publications, but some of the black ones too,
yes.
will tell you, well, you know, I'm sorry, we don't do poetry and that type of thing.
And most things are very staff-oriented. In other words, if you're not on the staff, the chances are reduced that you're going to have your article published in that particular, you know, outlet. So this gives you a chance that you don't have to be published beforehand. You don't have to know somebody to get in. It's just a matter of following the theme for that month. So if we have something on rejuvenation, then we will oftentimes carry a photograph on the front that reflects rejuvenation or youthfulness. Last month, the one that you have there, it was about Black history. So we have a woman 107 years old on the front cover of the publication. And then in June, I hope to have a very strong paper on celebrating black men, not just Father's Day, but black men, because oftentimes, right, in general, and having a very strong photograph that was produced by a brother here in the city who is a proprietor of a record store, who that's his hobby, and we plan to have that on the front. So we're always looking for pieces, publications, photographs, and other things. And this is their first step, or maybe a hobby of theirs, and they just want to be in a publication.
That's important too, because like I said, we go back to having positive images of our people, particularly black men, because you know the way society is, particularly with the young black male child, and having those kind of images in books and radio and television and everything, in every way that we can do. Positive Energy is a magazine it's a newsletter that's been around for a long time. What has been the response from the community?
The response has been very good. When Io still does work with me, especially with the ads, when she's out there, everyone, the people who even know me, because I was a freelance writer as early as 1984, and I was a full-time curriculum writer back in 1976. So some people who knew about Positive Energy, they've said, you know Io Handy, and so, you know, even though I've been out there, every time I hear people, they say Io. And it's the energy flow from her, and I'm sure that had a lot to do with her keeping the name Positive Energy also, because they call her Energy. She is Miss Energy.
She's such a dynamo. She's a little small sister.
She's much smaller than I am. She says when she walks into a room, a lot of times people expect her to be my height. I'm about 6 feet by the time I put on heels, and she's about 5'5", maybe 2, I think, maybe 5'2", I'm not sure. And she's so tiny, but she projects to be as tall as I am when she enters a room, Yeah,
and you get that feel when you talk to her, too. She's a very modest sister, but she has that quiet strength, you know.
She puts you at ease.
Yeah, you know, when I first spoke to you, you know, and you said, you know Io Handy. I said, how she know Io Handy?
Yes, everyone knows Io Handy.
And automatically comes to my mind Positive, and now she's working with the African American Holiday Expo.
Holiday Expo, and that's really what she wants to do, and to franchise the newspaper itself,
Let's talk about that, and so that our audience will know what that is, the Holiday Expo.
Okay, usually around Christmas time, but then she has also had other seminars which deal with gathering vendors and other people of knowledge into a space and giving lectures and seminars and selling and exchanging and just networking, because oftentimes we have to network through other people's networks, and we're only beginning to get to the point where we have black networks. So she is one of the people who has really been able to bring together all segments of society, African American, West Indian, as well as African, into one room, and there's a real closeness. You don't have that, you know, apartness that you have when you're into, you know, with other people. And so she has made that something that will now be a yearly and possibly even more often throughout the country, and also setting up other vendors throughout the country so that they will know how to put together a Holiday Expo. Even though it says Holiday Expo, it's more about gathering and networking people.
Directly.
Yes.
And that's important, that African American entrepreneurs not network through other people or through third parties, that we network directly with each other. Because that's economic. I mean, we can sit here and talk about anything, but let's just talk about economics and bring that all together and be in tune with the community. How important is it then to be in, because we're talking about Positive Energy, we're talking about the Holiday Expo, how important then is it to be in tune with that community which you serve? And how important is that?
You have to be really in tune with the community to get the kind of support, and IO has really been getting excellent support. And because it is based on advertising, it is frequently put out in the areas free of charge, but then also we have a subscription rate that we have for people who want it delivered to their door. So because it is based on advertising, you have to have some closeness. You have to be able to trust people, have a general trust, be able to have that connection. And that's the economic support system that we're talking about. The paper is basically self-supporting, but then also that information goes out to other people, and then that helps them to be self-supporting. I know one of the people I talked to, she said she had to stop advertising in Positive Energy because she had so much work she had to just do like that. She had to back off because it was just more than she could handle.
Well, that's definitely good.
Yes.
You know, when I think about our experience in this country, often the system has made us think that we're each other's enemy and that we have so much that's not common among us. But when we come together and do the type of things for ourselves that we need to do, we can look at that and say, well, you know, we had this in common with other black people across the country who may not be of the same religion,
Right.
Religious background,
Right.
whether they're Catholic, Methodist, or whatever, or what denomination. That we can come together with our brothers and sisters regardless of our denominations and that type of thing, and network with each other to do the type of things that we need to do to uplift our community. And I think that's so very important. So I certainly thank you for being here. We're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back. This is Danny Queen, and this is Color Me Poetry. Be right back.
Dear Lord, can you help my baby sister and me make it through another night? You see, our daddy's in jail for hurting a man, and our mama's on the pipe. Lord, this won't be a very long letter. I'm tired from putting the baby to sleep. She's crying because she's hungry. You see, we don't have any food to eat. Grandma wants us to come live with her. She said this is no place for children to be, but Mama don't want to lose this check she gets from my sister and me. Lord, I really don't like those men who curse my mama or the things she let them do. And I'm so afraid sometimes when they try to touch me too. Well, Lord, I have to go now. My sister's crying again. I try to do the best I can for her, but you know, I'm only 10. Dear Lord, can you help my baby sister and me make it through another night? You see, our daddy's in jail for hurting a man, and our mama's on the pipe. Please, Lord, if you find the time, won't you bring our mama back? We were so much happier before she started smoking crack. I love you. Hi, I'm Danny Queen, and welcome to another edition of Color Me Poetry, a very, very exciting edition of Color Me Poetry. And this is our 10th anniversary. This is our 10th year of being on. And this is the first time I'd like to introduce to my Color Me Poetry family, my brother in the person of James Skip Queen. And so a lot of the poems that you see a lot of times, some of them say Danny Queen, some of them say James Skip Queen. And I'd like to introduce my brother, James Skip Queen. What's up, bro?
Very much, man. How you doing?
We're just hanging, man. We're just kicking it. And the piece I just read was your piece, Dear Lord.
Right.
Yeah, that's a, you know, people, man, people say that piece is yay deep, man. They say that piece is really, really very deep. Tell us about Dear Lord and how you came to write that piece.
Well, actually, I read an article in the papers, and it was like right there, really, as I was reading the article, because it actually took place in D.C. There was a lady, and she was a single parent, and she waited until she was like 30-something years old before she started using drugs, and crack was the drug that she tried. And it just took her away, man, blowed her away. And she had a child, and the child didn't know what else to do, you know. And one day the child called the police.
On the
mother was sitting, the mother was sitting in the kitchen, and she was just smoking up all the money. And, you know, I mean, the child was 10 years old and not used to being just deserted like this by the mother, right? So she called police, and police came. Well, you know, the ending of the story is actually she went into a rehab, and she got her children back because they took her children from her.
They took her children at that time.
Yeah, but the story was like, it was right there. I had to force myself to finish reading the newspaper article so I could write the poem, because it was already coming as I was reading it.
Yeah.
But instead of calling the police, I was like, police don't have no power compared to the Lord, you know what I mean? It's like, you know,
that's what the power
child
is.
called the police, but, you know, the Lord has the power, so instead of sticking them in there, I stuck the Lord in.
So the Lord is the power in this poem, you know, that the child turned to.
The Lord is the power in everything.
Well, yeah, it's really, when you think about it, he's the power, he is the power, the almighty power.
Right.
Yeah.
And
so you built the story around there?
Yeah, it was like right there, man. It took a few minutes and it was done.
What were you thinking about while you were writing?
I was thinking about how many children I knew that were really suffering like that.
And go through the same thing.
You know, and it's a lot of focus put on the parents. You know, it's like when the children are really the ones suffering. And, you know, I mean, being in jail can't be good.
Right.
But he's going to come home and, you know, the mother got straight. But who's to say if the child will ever get straight from what they went through while they
For that emotional
going through that.
trauma
Yeah.
that the child had gone through.
Right.
And then you came back and you wrote another piece called Dear Daddy.
Oh, Hi Daddy was
Hi Daddy.
because
We're going to share that piece.
Dear Lord kind of focused on the female, right?
Right.
And there's no question that all brothers ain't trying to do the right thing. Or if they're trying to do the right thing, they not succeeding at it sometime.
Yeah.
And so I had to write one about something that the men wasn't
So
doing
you
right.
wrote the other
you know?
side.
Yeah,
So
I wrote
there's
the
two
other
sides of the same coin.
So focus on on the man not doing the right thing. You know?
Let's kick that piece.
Man, I'll have to read it for you.
Yeah, read it. Yeah, that's fine. Dear Daddy. And then there's another piece about children we want to read also. What's the name of it? Check on the Children.
Check on the Children.
Yes.
Okay. So, Dear Daddy, I love you. I really miss you and all the stuff we used to do. So I just had to write and ask, Daddy, do you miss me too? I would love for you to call me and let me know you're doing fine. Because with so many bad things happening, I worry about you sometimes. Mama says you have a problem, and that's all that she will say. So every night when I pray to God, I ask him to take your problems away. Oh, I'm still doing good in school, but my teacher thinks I could do more. And I'm saving all my report cards so I can show you all my scores. I know grown-ups sometimes have problems that children don't understand, but it's just not the same since you're not here. Please come home as soon as you can. Now don't forget to call me soon. Our number's still the same. Remember, I love you, Daddy, and that will never change.
That's something, man. Thank you.
Color me the man who cried I am, and that will be my eternal flame. Color me poetry, for nobody knows my name.
I am the middle passage and after. You are me and I